In today's video, I'll be taking you through the complete build of my brand new Argon 18 SUM road bike. This is my first new road bike since 2010, and it will feature the latest in road bike tech, including disc brakes, integrated cables, and electronic gears. I'll be taking you through all the details of what goes into a full bike build, so with that, let's get started. I began the build by getting the frame unpacked and up on the work stand. For the frame set, I had the choice between red and silver, and I decided to put that choice up to a vote on my Instagram story. Out of 1,000 votes, 54% preferred silver, so thank you to everyone who took the time to vote. Next, I moved on to installing the headset, the fork, and the handlebars so the bike could be securely mounted for the rest of the build. If you ever find yourself putting a carbon bike in a work stand, it's very important that you don't clamp directly on the carbon tubes. Their shape and structure isn't designed to be firmly clamped, and it can lead to damage of the frame. This particular stand holds the bike at the through axle, and the frame just rests on the top of the stand, putting no pressure on the carbon. With the bike mounted, I can get to the routing of the electronic wires through the frame. I'm installing Shimano's latest 105 Groupset, which has 12-speed semi-wireless electronic gears. The wired part of the Groupset has wires connecting the front and rear derailleurs to the battery hidden inside the seat post. The rear cable needed to be fished through the frame using a guide wire, but the front could be fed directly up the seat post. The wires simply click into place, and there's an included plastic tool to help press in the wires. The battery is claimed to last for around 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers between charges, so that will mean charging the bike around once every month or two for my riding volume. With all of the wires connected, I can get the shifters installed on the handlebars. The shifters are the wireless part of the system, and they connect by Bluetooth to the rear derailleur. Unlike 11-speed Di2, these can be set up and adjusted using your phone. The shifters are powered by two CR2032 batteries, which have an approximate lifespan of 1 to 2 years. With all of the cables installed in the frame, I can now install the bottom bracket. This frame uses a press-fit bottom bracket, BB86 to be exact, that has two plastic cups pressed into the carbon shell. As the cups are pressed in, the plastic expands to fit the shell, which is the popping and cracking noises you can hear. I also applied retaining compound to the frame prior to pressing in the cups, which will help prevent future creaking issues. For the crank, I always find I have to coax the axle into the frame with a few gentle hits. I'm using a 52-36 gear ratio for the chainrings combined with a 170mm crank arm. Up top for the seat, I'm preparing the seat post with assembly grip paste. This is used to prevent slip at carbon-on-carbon contact points. The gel has small bits of grit in it, and it's applied all over the carbon surfaces in the clamping area to help prevent movement of the parts. Next, I'm onto the wheels. I weighed the pros and cons here for wheel setup, and I decided to go with the regular clincher setup over tubeless. Tubeless does offer benefits like puncture protection and smooth ride quality, but the extra mess, cost of setup, and ongoing maintenance pushed me to a normal clincher setup. Let me know what you think of Road Tubeless down in the comments below. Mounted on the wheel is a 12-speed cassette with an 11:34 gear ratio, which should give me plenty of options on hills and flats alike. For the rotors, both are center lock attachment, and I'm using a 140mm for the rear wheel and a 160mm for the front. With the build really starting to take shape, I can now install and size the chain. I've already hot waxed this chain, which is why it looks a little bit stiff going on the bike. A wax chain is much cleaner than an oil chain, and there's also an efficiency gain with wax lube as well. I'll link to my other videos on how to wax your bike chain down below. With the drivetrain operational, I can now give the gears a tune. The first adjustment is the derailleur height using the B screw and alignment gauge. Then I can shift to the largest cog and set the low limit before shifting to the smallest cog and setting the high limit. Pedals are next, and prior to installing these, I'm putting a good coating of Silca anti-seize on the threads. Anti-seize prevents parts made of different materials, in this case steel and aluminum, from getting stuck together over time due to galvanic corrosion. My stem on the bike leaves a lot of excess steer tube above the stem, so my next step is to cut down the steer tube to remove the excess carbon. This is a step you only get one chance to do correctly, so it's worth taking all of the proper steps to ensure you don't make a mistake. I've got the fork mounted in a saw guide, which is securely clamped in my table vise. The tape I'm wrapping around the cut line will prevent the carbon from fraying during the cut. I'm using a hacksaw with a fine 32 TPI bimetal blade. Gentle pressure is recommended, and take your time to make sure the cut is as straight as possible. I'm beveling the cut with an angled sandpaper shim and then sealing it with clear nail polish after this. Next, I can run the front brake line through the fork, which ended up taking quite a few tries, and I also mounted the front brake. With the fork still out of the bike, this is the time to run the rear brake. This goes through the seat stay, above the bottom bracket, and then up through the head tube. To prevent any rattling of the cable inside the frame, I'm putting a foam sleeve around this hose to dampen vibration. I can then use anti-seize to coat the bearing contact points for the upper and lower bearings. In order to hide the cables inside the head tube, the cables actually go through both bearings. And while this does create a clean, streamlined front end, the downside is that future replacement of these bearings will require quite a bit of disassembly. With everything in place and coated with anti-seize, I can now remount the stem, install the expander plug, screw in the top cap, and then use a torque wrench to tighten the stem bolts to spec. The next step is to cut the brake lines to their final length. I'm using this tool from Shimano, which allows you to get a perfect cut on the hose and also press in the barb insert into the hose's end. The hose can now be installed, have its olive and bolt greased, and then tightened into the brake lever. With the brake system sealed, the next step is to bleed the lines. Shimano uses mineral oil in their hydraulic brakes and also uses a 1-syringe bleed system. A funnel is installed at the brake lever and the syringe is used to push fluid up from the caliper. Bleeding the brakes helps get rid of any air bubbles trapped in the system and allows the lever to feel firm and responsive when braking. After all of the air bubbles have been worked out, remove the bleed funnel and wipe away all of the residual mineral oil off the lever using isopropyl alcohol. The penultimate step is to install the bottle cages. These are titanium cages and bolts from Silca, and the colors were picked according to your votes. I'm also using anti-seize on these bolts as well. Your votes also determine the handlebar tape color, and black was the clear winner here. This is also Silca bar tape, and it features a unique foam to dampen vibration, similar to the latest Nike running shoe foam. I wrapped the tape in opposite directions on purpose here. I've had a lot of comments that the direction of the tape matters, so I'm going to be doing some long-term testing to find out. And with that, this build is done. I'm really happy with how the bike came together, and I'm looking forward to testing it out on the road. A big thank you to my amazing channel partners Argon 18, Shimano, Silca, and Feedback Sports. And of course, thank you to you, all of my viewers. This build wouldn't have been possible without you, so thank you all for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed the build.